If you're watching this, then time has already ran out. I mean, for me, because I was supposed to test this for a while, and the announcement has been made. I've been testing this for over a month now, and I've really been wanting to tell you guys about this new shift lens from Venus Optics Laowa, the new 20mm f4 Sea Dreamer shift lens. Now, this isn't actually the first shift lens from the brand. I actually reviewed the 15mm f4.5 when it first came out and later on purchased one for myself. This one. And I've been using this a lot on all of my architectural photography projects. However, of course, when it comes to wide-angle prime lenses, especially for architectural photography, then you're gonna want some options. And that is why the brand also came out with this, the 20mm f4 Sea Dreamer shift lens. Now, this new shift lens actually has a lot of the features that we have on the 15mm. For one, they are both made out of metal. But we can see also that the 20mm is a bit bigger and a bit bulkier than the 15, and this one actually weighs around 700 grams. Now, from bottom to top, of course, we have the rotation axis right here with the button and the friction lock, as well as the indicator for the shift movement. And on top of that indicator, we have the shift control ring. So you turn this, just like the 15mm, you turn this to be able to shift the lens up and down or left to right, depending on how you rotated it. Now, after that is a similar thin aperture ring, and I actually made the comment about this before. The aperture ring is very close to the shift ring and is relatively thinner. So that means that when you're turning the shift ring, you might accidentally turn the aperture ring and change your aperture. So that's something to take note of and be careful when using this one. On top of the aperture ring is the indicator for aperture and also focusing. On top of all of that, we have the focus ring right here. And all these rings are actually made of metal but have been corrugated to have better grip. Something that is unique to this one is actually this hood. Now, this hood is removable entirely, and it's pretty much the same with traditional lens hoods. However, the lock is a friction knob controlled mechanism as well. But what's unique about this is that actually, even if the hood is locked in place, you can turn the hood or the petals of the hood so that when you're shifting the lens up and down or left and right, then you can get it out of the way of the frame. That means that you're not going to have any vignette and the hood is not going to be part of your shot. And that's actually a very thoughtful feature because when you're shooting with wide-angle lenses, especially shift lenses, and you're being hit by very strong light from the side, you need to be able to block that out with the hood. And I forgot to mention that this also actually takes in an 82mm sized filter. Yes, it has a filter thread and you can use it with circular filters or even square filter holders. Now, I actually used a circular polarizer on one of my shoots with this one, and consider the fact that I actually used the RevoRing CPL, which is relatively thicker, but I had no problems with it. I did not have any vignette to worry about, so that's a huge plus. Now let me show you the overall experience of using this. Of course, imagine this is actually a bigger tripod and you're shooting. Now, of course, the shift comes from the ring that is nearest to the camera mount or the camera body. And you can rotate that by pressing the button and you're going to be able to turn it to a certain degree that you like. And of course, you're only going to stick with 90 degrees and 180 degrees and neutral. So when you're able to shift that, you can move it up and down. Now when you're shooting, you can of course shoot horizontally or vertically, and the shift is going to be able to help you correct your perspective. However, there's actually another way to use this, and of course, that is to shoot shift panoramas. Now, you can either be shooting horizontally and shoot very long panoramas when you're shifting from side to side, or you can shift up and down and generally get a shorter image, but actually shows you more of the upper and lower parts of the frame. Of course, when you're shooting vertically, you can also shoot very long, or you can do the same to capture more of the sides. Now, when it comes to ergonomics and actually using this lens, there are a few things that I wish could be improved. For one, as I said, the aperture ring is very close to the shift ring, which means that if I am not careful enough while I shift, I might actually also change the aperture. And that's probably something they can fix by moving it up a little. And another thing is that, just like in this particular situation, the aperture indicator is on the top part. And that's no problem, I can see it. But when I rotate the lens, then of course, that indicator is also going to move to the side. And that's okay from this angle, but generally you're shooting like this and you're gonna have to turn like that. So I kind of wish there was another indicator on the other side, or maybe on the perpendicular axis, just so you can also see it from the top. But then again, maybe that's just me nitpicking. Of course, you generally don't have to, but when you turn it to another side, then of course you're not going to be able to see the indicator because it's right here at the bottom. And the good thing is that you can rotate it any way you want, and you can just keep it within line of sight. But again, if we had that secondary indicator on the other axis, then that would have been great. Now, I've actually been testing this lens for over a month now. And instead of setting up a tedious shoot and, just stick to shooting one structure, I chose to casually test this out on the streets. And I actually went around multiple cities just trying to see what I can capture, how many structures I can successfully capture, and the different types of things that I can capture with the 20mm. Of course, I've been used to the 15mm, and the 15mm has been very handy for those situations wherein the building is too close for comfort to the buildings beside it, and there's not much room across the street to actually capture the entire building on its own. So the 15 has been good with that. Now with the 20mm, of course, that's a 5mm difference, and when we're talking about ultra-wide angle lenses, then that's going to make a huge difference. And of course, one limitation is that when you're shooting in a tightly packed city, then you're not going to be able to get all the buildings in full without having to tilt the camera up and down. However, if you do have enough back room and you're able to step back a little to get the structure, then of course this would be able to give you the right perspective and the proper verticals when shooting that building. Now, another value that this one actually has is the fact that it's zoomed in a little bit more. You can actually isolate and focus on some parts of a structure. And even if you're still shooting wide, you can still control the verticals. So that's a really good plus. At the same time, this actually works very well when you're shooting interiors and your goal is to actually show a certain portion of the area instead of just show the entire place with a wide angle lens. This one will be able to help you focus on certain areas that you want to showcase while still making sure that you're able to fit everything and keep everything in proper perspective. Now, of course, the question is, how good is the image quality? Well, I never really had any problems with the 15mm, so I never expected any problems with this one. And I noticed in testing that from the range of f4 to 22, we have really good image quality. However, you can see an increase in that image quality on the center frame when you're shooting at f11 to around f16. Now, what's crucial about this is you also have to check out the farther ends of the image circle or the farther ends of the frame when you're shifted up or down or left and right. And I wanted to see that. Now, I saw that there was a bit of a difference when it comes to the outer 1/3 of the frame when fully shifted up or down. I saw that there was around a 10% decrease in sharpness, but of course that's also manageable. And as we move towards F16 compared to F11, you can see an increase in that sharpness, wherein almost the entire frame is balanced out in terms of sharpness and clarity. Now, realistically speaking, of course, that 10% difference isn't gonna matter so much when you're not printing big. So that's something to consider. Now, in conclusion, this is actually another great option for real estate and architectural photographers. If I were to choose between one of the two, I would have to ask what kind of structure I will be shooting, because that will be the biggest indicator if you need a 15mm or a 20mm. But of course, if I were to have my way, I would keep both of them. In general, this new 20mm f4C Dreamer shift lens is actually another great option from the brand Laowa. It's all metal, it has a thoughtfully designed lens hood that rotates, and it can take 82mm filters or filter holders, which is actually a huge plus. And perhaps one of the great things to consider about this is the price tag. According to the brand, this will be sold for $1,099 US, which, if you consider, is a small fraction of the price of the lenses we used to have as options for shift lenses. And there we go. If you have any questions about this new lens, do feel free to leave them down below in the comment section. And if you made it this far into the video, thank you for watching, and feel free to subscribe to the channel. My name is Nico Valenzuela. I am a landscape and architectural photographer, and of course, the content of this channel is mainly about landscape photography gear, architectural photography gear like this one, and all the tech and a few tutorials as well. Thanks for watching.